Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, Honorable Commissars and Fighters. President, you delivered a last State of the Nation address for perhaps the most retrograde government term for the struggle for women and youth emancipation since 1994. During this term, we have observed the escalation of violent crimes against women, children, gays, lesbians, transgender, and queer people in this country. For 9 years, we have been watching this space, looking for decisive government intervention to stop this violence. Our eyes have actually grown red from watching the space for conclusive solutions, while our hearts and our humanity have been torn into pieces by the brutality perpetrated against us and those that we love. Our only sin is that we are women, or that some amongst us have different sexual orientation. While the brutality of the inequalities sustained by your government since 1994 affect the majority of Black people who missed the ANC gravy train, it is mostly Black women who must suffer the consequences. It is Black women who wake up very early in the morning to raise white kids in the suburbs, leaving their own kids to raise themselves in the midst of the violence of the townships and villages. Their hands have grown tired of propping up an economic system that hates them. It is us, Black women, who have to withstand the drunken masculinity of their fathers, their brothers, and their partners. They carry on with their lives with immeasurable psychological and physical scars because they have nowhere else to go. Their bodies are growing tired of being experimental sites for aspiring murderers and rapists. It is Black lesbians, gays and queers, and intersex people who are killed every single day in our townships, and they have been watching the space for decades for their own emancipation. It is Black youth that languishes in the hopeless pit of unemployment, drugs, landlessness, and exploitation. Inevitably, most of them see violent revolution as their only solution. Mr. President, your State of the Nation spoke to none of these issues. Only the EFF has comprehensive solutions to these problems. We must, as a matter of agency, ensure 50% women representation in all spheres representing economic benefit, political participation, and managerial and leadership responsibility. We must introduce compulsory gender education and training for all from the school level upwards. We must amend the Criminal Law Amendment Act and existing legislation to include harsher minimum sentences for corrective rape specifically, or crimes committed with hatred as motivation in general. We must invest in a public health care system that ensures easy access to gender-affirming treatment. We must address the prevalence of children-on-children sexual abuse, motivated in the main by broken family structures and exposure of children to abuse. In this case, abused children themselves become abusers. We must mainstream youth development in all sectors of government and pursue active programs to professionalize youth work. We must pass legislation that ensures that all government departments and all public institutions spend 50% of their procurement budget on youth-owned businesses. We must, as a matter of urgency, prioritize our research and development and science and technology to ensure that young people are equipped at an early age to deal with the requirements of the economy in an era of the fourth industrial revolution. Mr. President, we must do these things because failure to do so will condemn us to self-immolation from which we will not be able to recover. Key to these ideals, Mr. President, is a well-functioning properly skilled and corrupt-free state that is able to drive a vision of an equitable society free of racism, sexism, patriarchy, and ageism. We need a state that directly intervenes to restructure access to and use of land, to ensure that women and the youth control at least 50% of all productive land in this country. We need a state that is courageous to firmly regulate the powers of traditional leaders, to ensure that women and youth are not excluded from participating in economic activities in rural areas. The recent discovery of gas off the coast of Mossel Bay must be a test case for this. Mr. Mantashe must not come and impose his multinational friends to control what is essentially a national treasure. We demand that whatever must happen there, women and youth must be at the center. But you must also be honest that the ANC you lead has neither the vision nor the willingness to lift this country up from the dark pit you have pushed us into. The only party with decisive, grassroots-based policy solutions for women, youth, and those with different sexual orientation is the EFF. Only the EFF has the requisite vision, the courage, and the leadership to liberate youth and women in this country. To young people condemned to a life of senseless loitering on the streets of our townships because of unemployment and academic exclusion, only the EFF knows your pain. Only the EFF knows the feeling of being rejected and laughed at by society. Only the EFF can liberate you. To the men and women laughed at, harassed, and killed because of your social orientation, only the EFF can stand up without shame and proclaim that sexual orientation rights are human rights. To the women of this country, battered into submission at homes and exploited into slavery at work, only the EFF hears you. Only the EFF feels your pain. Only the EFF can emancipate you. Vote for the EFF in the upcoming national elections. Honorable Vandame, I've got this.
Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Order, honorable members. Order. We are in a session of parliament. Please, can you take your seats, honorable members?